an expression of my power to live and carry and have control.
How long can a mass murderer cover his tracks? In a clever series of carefully planned moves, what is the one mistake that rings the bells of fortune for the authorities? Dennis Nilsen strangled at least 15 young men and boys whom he lured to flats he rented in London between 1978 and 1983. He burned them on bonfires or flushed body parts down the lavatory. Unluckily for him, a clogged drain was all it took to unveil his gruesome reality. On February 8, 1983, a plumber named Michael Catron was called to 23 Cranley Gardens, an apartment building in North London. Residents had been complaining of blocked drains for quite some time, and Catron was there to resolve the issue. After Catron opened a drain at the side of the building, he began to pull out what was going to be key evidence against the killer. Instead of seeing the typical mess of hair or napkins, Catron discovered a flesh-like substance and small, broken bones. Dennis Nilsen, one of the building's residents, remarked, "It looks to me like someone's been flushing down their Kentucky Fried Chicken." But Catron knew it looked disturbingly human. As it turned out, he was correct. And the culprit behind this horrific mess was none other than the sly man who passed the remark.
The exciting part of the little conundrum was when I lifted the body, carried it. It was an expression of my power to live and carry and have control.
From 1978 to 1983, Nilsen killed at least 12 young men and boys and did unspeakable things to their bodies. To make an already monstrous case even worse, the Scottish serial killer left behind a series of chilling audio tapes that described his murders in sickening detail. Many of Nilsen's victims were homeless or sex workers, while others were tourists who were visiting the wrong bar at the wrong time. No matter who they were, Nilsen wanted to keep them all to himself forever. He blamed this sickening urge on his perpetual loneliness. Before moving to 23 Cranley Gardens, Nilsen lived in an apartment with a garden. When the stench of his heinous crimes became too much to bear, he started burying, burning, and disposing of his victims in the garden. It seems that Nilsen had a horrid justification for what he did. A corpse is a thing. It can't feel. It can't suffer. If you're more upset by what I did to a corpse than what I did to a living person, then your morals are upside down. In 1983, Nilsen was found guilty on 6 counts of murder and 2 attempted murders and sentenced to life in prison. He spent much of his time translating books into Braille. Nilsen expressed no remorse for his crimes and no desire to be free. In 2018, Nilsen died in prison at age 72 after suffering a ruptured abdominal aortic aneurysm. He spent his final moments laying in his own filth in his prison cell. He was reportedly in excruciating pain. Do you think Nilsen had anticipated what he thought was a genius veil for his sins would become his biggest mistake? Was he really so lonely, or was this just an antic excuse to justify what he did? What do you think of this?